Welcome to the September 18th, 2020 meeting of the Knox County Board of Assessment Review. The meeting will come to order. This is a public proceeding. Unless the board specifically goes into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all of the exhibits that are being offered. Please notify the chair if you are unable to hear or to see. The board expects that this hearing and the subsequent deliberation will take no longer than 1.5 hours in total. The board works from a prepared agenda. There is one item in today's agenda: the hearing of the appeal of M. Sylvia Libby to this board of the denial of her appeal to the assessor of the town of Camden in the matter of the assessment of her property at 51 Riverside Drive, map 107, lot 36. Any person wishing to address the board may do so in accordance with the following procedures. The board will initially confirm with the applicant and the assessor the current assessed value of the property and the requested abatement amount. The board will then open the public hearing and ask the appellant to present her case briefly and concisely. The board has studied the submitted material, so please just present your points with your proof of them. The board expects this part of the hearing to take no longer than 15 minutes. The board members will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the appellant, and the assessor will have an opportunity to ask questions of the appellant. The board will then ask the assessor to present his case briefly and concisely, presenting his points and proof of them. The board expects this part of the hearing to take no longer than 15 minutes. The board members will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the assessor, and the appellant will have an opportunity to ask questions of the assessor. When there is no further testimony from either side, the board will then close the public hearing and deliberate and make a decision on the abatement appeal. Following a decision on the appeal toward the end of the meeting or at a subsequent meeting shortly hereafter, the board will prepare a written decision that will be mailed to the applicant within 10 days of the board's vote. The board may receive any oral or documentary evidence, but such evidence is restricted to the subject matter of the agenda item. The board has studied the submissions of the parties. The board shall exclude irrelevant, immaterial, and unduly repetitious evidence. Citizens shall refrain from interrupting other speakers. This meeting is being electronically recorded, and it is difficult to hear what is being said when multiple people speak at the same time. Citizens shall avoid personalities and conduct themselves in a civil, courteous manner expected of all meeting participants. Speakers should address questions through the chair. Speakers shall not attempt to engage in debate with other meeting participants. Any questions? If none, let us move to the first agenda item, the abatement appeal of M. Sylvia Libby on her property at 51 Riverside Drive, Camden, tax map 107, lot 36. Anyone wishing to testify in this matter, please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. You may be seated. Let us first confirm the ownership of the parcel. M. Sylvia Libby is the sole owner?
Yes.
Let us next confirm the current assessed value of the property and the requested abatement amount. According to the application, the assessment of the land is $258,400. The assessment of the buildings is $244,700. The total assessment is $503,100. Is the assessor in agreement with these figures?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. According to the application, the owner's opinion of current value is land $175,000, building $178,000, total $353,000.
Yes.
Thank you. The abatement requested is $150,000, which is a 30% difference of the assessment. The appellant is citing that the judgment of the assessor was irrational or so unreasonable in light of the circumstances that the property is substantially overvalued and an injustice results. The tax year for which the abatement is requested is April 1st of 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to stipulate that the appellant has standing in this matter by virtue of her ownership in the property.
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor? Thank you. I would entertain a motion to stipulate that the appellant's application to this board was timely filed.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? 5 yes, 0 no. The appellant may present her case.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
on a procedural issue.
Yes.
Can I be heard briefly?
yes,
Thank you. So my name is Bill Kelly. I'm the attorney for the town of Camden. And I have to, as a procedural matter, since you're about to get into the testimony, request that the board exclude the Camden Coast real estate opinion of value that was presented by a real estate agent for a couple of reasons, some legal, some practical. I'll just take them off quickly. It is, of course, unlawful for anyone to give evidence in a hearing as to an appraised value other than the owner of a piece of property under the standards of professional licensing in Title 32 and Section 14003, which the board members may well be aware of. It's actually a Class D crime to testify as to value unless you are a licensed appraiser. So I object to the materials as they certainly present an opinion of value. The second issue would be, of course, that they are 2.5 years out of date. The third issue is the person is not here for me to ask any questions to, which we normally would do. The fourth issue is this person in this market analysis has identified some sales in the $500,000 or near $500,000 range and made adjustments. I have nothing to work with as I normally would, even if she could testify as to how those adjustments were arrived at. So for those reasons, I would move to exclude the report, some legal, some practical, in the sense that I cannot ask any questions, which we would normally do.
I will make a motion to exclude the broker's opinion of value and their submission, to exclude that from today's hearing.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, the appellant may present her case.
So I'm Ed Libby, the owner's son, and I'll be presenting on behalf of the owner.
Do so.
Just as a side note to the motion and the request by the attorney, our argument does not rely on the real estate agent's comparative analysis. That actually was requested by the town of Camden for us to give it to them, and then by way of requirement on the appeal process, it asked for all materials that had been submitted as part of our, so that's how it traveled here, and it really wasn't anything that we were relying on. It was just a matter of, it ended up in the pile. So I'll get to the point. What our burden today is to either find that the judgment of the assessor was irrational or so unreasonable in light of the circumstances that the property is substantially overvalued and injustice results, or that there was an unjust discrimination. And those are the 2 points that we are going to focus on. Our approach is common sense. It relies on evidence that is clearly right in front of us and plain for everybody to see and understand. Our focus is on the particular circumstances of this lot And that differs from, if you read the appeal document from the town of Camden, it's full of fancy formulas, a lot of technical mumbo jumbo. In fact, there's a preface to even try to define some of those terms. We're not going to go there. The assessor is responsible to achieve a townwide metric to satisfy state law. We're really focusing on real world, very readily available facts in a straightforward, simple way to show that the judgment was irrational and resulted in a substantial overvaluation of the property at 51 Riverside Drive. And there are 4 basic points that we're going to make. One is the land value for the riverfront lot is irrational based on the market evidence at the time of the revaluation. We rely on MLS number 1298229 on Hopkins Lane, 2.2 acre lot with 200 feet of frontage on the Gunnacook River in the town of Camden. That was listed for $185,000 for a period of 3/14/17 through 11/14/18, which is precisely overlaying the time of the revaluation. We're going to focus on the difference of neighborhoods with the data that was input into the revaluation versus the neighborhood where this particular lot sits. They're very different in terms of where they're located, in town and out of town, the types of neighborhoods they are, and the types of lots that are within the neighborhoods. We're going to discuss the assessor's judgment in dismissing the most relevant sale, which is the property right next door to the subject, as arbitrary and not supported by any evidence, and therefore is unreasonable in light of the circumstances. And then we will also discuss the timing, where the sale actually occurred after the 4/1/19 timeline, but we feel by way of reference it can be used to rationally conclude that the value was substantially less at the time of the revaluation, given the assessor's position that values were actually rising during that time. So the first item, we did submit the MLS sheet as part of our evidence. You should have been able to see that and read through that. That's Hopkins Lane land. And basically, when we went in to discuss how did the assessor arrive at the $258,000 land valuations, when at the time of the revaluation there were 0 land sales along the river to determine the value. He explained to us that it was a formula that he had made that assigned subjective values to construction costs, and then through some mathematical formula derived or had an output of, after you subjectively decided what the cost of the building was, whatever was the remainder or the residual was the land value. And that was that $258,000 value. And on the surface, what we want to point out is that at that very time, it was plain to everybody that one of the nicest lots on the river, 2.2 acres with 200 feet of frontage, was being marketed on the open market for substantially less money, $185,000, substantially less money. And it did not sell after a substantial amount of time being on the market. And so it's irrational to conclude that any riverfront lot is worth substantially more than what the market is saying it won't even bear. So we don't know exactly what the market would have told us, but we know it's less than $185,000. Yet the assessor, through his formula, using subjective inputs for construction costs or materials costs or building costs, derived a $258,000 value for the subject property. Now the subject property isn't even in the same type of neighborhood. We're asking for a valuation of $175,000, slightly below that price point that the market would not even bear. We think that's fair and obvious. We think it's unreasonable at the time when you cannot even sell the best lot on the river for $185,000 to conclude that they're worth $258,000. The fact is that no lot has ever sold for $258,000 on that river in this town, ever. So that's just irrational. I'm gonna move on. There's another part of that that gets into the lots that were used. And once you assign too high a value to the land, which is parallel to assigning too low a number to the building cost, what ends up happening is smaller houses end up being discriminated against because there's a skew. A lower land cost and a higher building cost would have brought those large houses on large lots into line with the small houses on the small lots. But I'm not going to get into that, and then we're not going to rely on that argument. We're going to stick with the real simple, obvious thing, is that if you can't sell a lot for $185,000, how is it worth $258,000? The next thing we like to get into is the very different nature of the neighborhoods that these properties that were used in the assessment data, and you have the sample of 4, compared to the lot that is the subject lot. We're talking about a situation where the lots in the database, in the data sample, were large lots, new subdivision type lots with lots of 200 feet of frontage that supported new construction with much larger houses, newer homes versus older homes, large homes versus modest homes, and then also the mixed neighborhood. In town, where the houses were taken in the data sample, they're all new, they're similar, they're big, and they're nice. In the subject neighborhood, it's a mix. It's an older area, it has camps, it has mobile homes, it has modular homes, and it has a few newer homes that have come in the last decade. The lots are smaller. We're talking about a half an acre, which is challenged because it doesn't have enough depth from the water to effectively have full use of the lot. The subject property 10 years or so ago had a tree fall right on the original camp that they were living in, which forced them to rebuild the house, which became a challenge because of the road setback and the water setback squeeze you, and you end up over a very tiny little building area. And recently they redid their garage and couldn't even fit a 2-car garage on the property. They had to go with a 1-car garage because of these setbacks and the confinement that you end up with on these small, older lots that at one time were legal, and now with the setbacks from the water increasing, have become very difficult to do anything on. So there's a very big difference in the neighborhoods, and we think that that was not brought through during the data collection process because the only lots that were used were the in-town large lots with large houses. The next item is the estate sale, and we feel that dismissing the estate sale without any consideration of the circumstances is not supported by facts. The real question to determine inclusion should be whether it was an arm's length transaction or not, just like any other sale that might be considered questionable for inclusion in a study. Prior to being dismissed, a simple analysis of whether it was a fair market transaction or not should be made. The assessor, in his defense appeal document, admits to disqualifying estate sales that do not support his values, even if it's an arm's length transaction. The arbitrary nature of the assessor's approach unjustly discriminates against the appellant when the best comparable sale is the abutting property on a similar sized lot in the same exact neighborhood, yet the assessor ignores it, even though it was an arm's length transaction and representative of fair market value. So the most similar sale is ignored. It was similarly assessed at $510,000, yet sold on the open market in an arm's length transaction for $339,000. It's an identical lot with a bigger but slightly older house, and it was on the market for 66 days, and that is, that MLS listing is here and has been submitted, so you can see that. The final argument that we would make is the timing of the best comparables, which is 59 Riverside Drive, which we were just discussing, the abutting property, and then across the river at 309 Washington Street may technically not qualify as being in the data sample because of the timing of April 1st. But they do inform someone to reasonably conclude that the actual values for these properties is substantially overvalued, because the assessor's position is that values were rising at the time. And so even though the sale didn't occur, the properties were being marketed at a price point way below their assessed values. So if they're being marketed at below what the assessor is saying and they're not selling, it's reasonable to infer or conclude by way of reference that there's a substantial overvaluation. That's our argument. We think it relies on things that are very easily understood by regular people. They're factual, and it makes the conclusion of the assessor's evaluation irrational. I mean, it makes no sense when you can't sell the best lot on the river for $185 for the assessor to derive that it's worth $258,000. That's just irrational. The neighborhoods are very different from the data that was put into the assessor's formula, and dismissing the estate sale on its surface without consideration is arbitrary and not supported by any sort of professional procedure or anything like that. It's something that in his report he says that I don't do that. And then the timing, again, by way of reference, just because it didn't sell, if you're trying to sell it for way under the assessed value at the time, that's a clear indication that the assessed values are too high. That's all we have.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the appellant? Jim?
The land sale that you reference is 600 feet, according to the broker's sheet, back from apparently a right-of-way. It's part of a larger parcel. 600 feet back, the buyer would have had to build a road, put in all utilities. Is your lot on a right-of-way, or is it on a public road, or can you describe how that lot?
Okay,
Okay.
I can, but I want to just be clear. Do you have the MLS sheet in front of you?
I do.
Okay, so if you look down to the internal remarks by the broker who's listing it,
Yeah.
it does say that the right-of-way is 600 feet long to be constructed by the buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a driveway that needs to be constructed,
Right.
and then they have to bring power down. My understanding of that is that there was an existing home and they had excess land and they were selling that, so they were going to come down and then branch off.
Sure.
So you're right on that. The subject parcel is on public road and has a very short driveway because there's nowhere to go because you run into the setbacks.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, that is 600 feet of driveway to be built at a cost.
Right. Yeah. Neighborhood's judgment. That's all I really have at this point, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board for the appellant? Not at this time. All righty. Does the assessor have any questions for the appellant at this time?
No, we do not. Just to explain my interjection, Madam Chair, I wasn't sure what the exposures were, but we're supposed to have both nose and mouth covered, and I just wanted to point that out during the testimony. That was the only reason for my interruption. I didn't want to interrupt his flow.
Thank you. The board will now hear the presentation from the assessor from Camden.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask a couple questions of Kerry Leishman, because I just need the record to reflect a couple things in case there's an appeal. It shouldn't take more than a minute or two. Kerry, could you just please explain for the record your experience, the licenses you hold, and your current employment?
I'm a certified Maine assessor. I work for the towns of Rockport and Camden. I've been certified since 2007. Okay, Tom?
We will be.
Take a drink, Tom.
Went down the wrong way. Okay.
Get some water.
Okay, thank you. generally describe the methods that the town of Camden uses to determine residential, real property residential values.
Yes, well, we start out with cost manuals, and they are, they're modified by sales. What I mean by that is just taking an arbitrary figure, say Cape Cod homes, maybe the cost manual says that they should be $80 a square foot, yet our sales indicate they should
Excuse
be
me,
$85.
could you speak a little louder, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. I was saying that we start out with values given to us by cost manuals, and we adjust them according to sales. Do you understand?
Yes.
Third time, charm. We start out with values in cost manuals, and then we adjust them by sales. And as an example, I was saying that, for example, if the manual tells us that Cape Cod homes should be $80 a square foot, yet our sales say they should be $85 a square foot, we adjust that. So we do that with all categories. Everything is derived by recent past sales.
Okay, and just on the point of, so the board, so the record is clear, you use sales. You don't use someone's effort to market a piece of property, which might be subject to all kinds of facts that you don't know about.
No.
You have to rely on actual data of what people have paid in the market.
Yes. Yes.
If you could, because we don't have a lot of time, the board has an opportunity to receive your materials. Just summarize, if you could go through your materials in terms of how you reached your assessment on the Libby property, and then just highlight your materials, please, because the board's pretty sophisticated, but at least you'll touch on the points that the record will need to reflect.
Well, I'll just say that sales indicated to us in 2019 that we were well below the ratios that we needed to be. And so I studied throughout the town to see where they were particularly low, and I raised them up. My goal was to get the town, which at the time, I don't have it right in front of me, we were about 85 or 86%. My goal was to get us up into the around 93 percentile. And so I studied where we were down, and I made adjustments. As a matter of fact, I lowered land value across town by 4%. But I adjusted many home styles and neighborhoods upwards. And that was the end result was ratios where I wanted them, where I needed them to go.
Okay, and can you just, so the record reflects, just briefly, you have provided a three-page narrative, and you adopt that as your testimony.
Yes.
And then on page, starting after the narrative, if you could just take us through what each of your
Okay.
sheets stand for. in terms
So
of
very
property.
quickly, that's the town as a whole, all qualified sales. And in the 2018 and 19, we had 121 qualified sales. And our ratio, our median ratio was 85%. After all of the adjusting that I did, the next page shows that our ratio rose to 95%. And then we have a series of ratios that are particularly applicable to the appellant. So single-family homes, for example, were down to 84%. I'm talking about the median ratio. After my adjustments, single-family homes, the median was at 95%. On the next one, they are in neighborhood, excuse me, the phone is ringing in my hearing aid, you shut that off. The appellant is in what we have classified as a neighborhood 60. So before my adjustments, neighborhood 60 was at 86%. After my adjustments, neighborhood 60 was at 96%. And then finally, the site index for homes on the river, McGuntacook River, is a site index K. And I show you here, there are 4 sales on this one page. The baseline shows you that my ratios there, the median was 82%. After I adjusted values, the median was 95%. And I do want to point out that the 2.2 acre parcel that the appellant was talking about was sold as a 3.8 acre. They wound up not splitting it off. It's sold as a 3.8 acre, and that's included on here. That's the one that's 42 Hopkins Lane. And you see that sold October 25th, 2018 for $577,500. I had it assessed for $449,600, which is a ratio of 77%. After I adjusted values, the assessment was $512,900, so that ratio was 88%. That's after the adjustments. Overall, those four properties, however, together as a group, adjusted nicely. I'd also like to point out that this was a strange coincidence, but the day I was writing my narrative for you, the owner of 59 Riverside Drive, who the appellant talks about a lot, it was outside of the review period, which was April 1st, 2019, he came to me to talk about his assessed values, which I thought was a strange coincidence. But as I learned from talking with him, that was a distressed sale. The house was in very bad condition, which I did not know about. We had a long conversation about the property and the repairs that he had to do to make it habitable. And so I wound up actually giving him an abatement. But the point I want to make here is that that price that was paid for the house was about its condition, which of course I didn't know about till later. So just wanted to let you know that.
And Terry, could you touch on for the board, there's been some commentary about the fact that you have described a particular sale regarding an estate sale, and your practice regarding how you factor in whether or not an estate sale is or is not a valid sale for your data purposes. And for the board, I'm focusing on addendum B to the Libby appeal, where they made comments about fraudulent statements, dishonesty, and no basis in fact. Can you explain to the board your practice regarding?
Well, the reason it's not typical, the same kind of, the way I always put it in my own terms. If I sell my house, I need to make sure I get the best price for it, because I'm going to use that to buy my next one. An estate sale is not like that. That's an inherited property, and you can't tell on the outset what the incentive was for selling it. And I have been told by more than one personal representative that they got the best price they could before they became liable for the tax bill that was to come. That's one reason they might sell it quickly. But there are all kinds of reasons for it, and even the appellant states in this it's addendum B, there is no basis in fact for this statement, since every estate sale has its own circumstances. That's exactly my point. They have their own circumstances, and I can't be sure that I can interview each of the parties involved in the estate sale to make sure that I've got a qualified sale. So as a matter of course, I don't count them, whether they suit my ratio or not. I just don't count them.
And you do that uniformly across the town?
Across town.
Okay, thank you.
Equitable and fair is how it's the purpose.
He's still speaking.
Okay. I just would, okay.
You'll have a chance. Continue.
I have nothing more to say. Do you have anything, any questions?
No, just as far as, no, I don't have anything else. I don't want to repeat your materials. The board's already made clear they've read them. Just any questions for the assessor?
That's my business. All right, are there any questions from the board for the assessor? Tom?
Yeah, Carrie, I noticed that your baseline for single-family homes, you have an N equal 94.
Say again.
And then in the
I'm sorry, he couldn't hear you.
in your baseline for single-family homes, land use code,
Yep.
this is page, oh, they're all page one. You have an N equal 94. In other words, you had 94 sales that were in the baseline.
Correct.
The subsequent page, after adjustments, you have an N equal 86.
Right.
Does that reflect the state excluding what they thought were estate sales?
As I continued on in the process of adjusting values, I discovered sales that for one reason or not shouldn't be qualified. For example, there was a sale in Camden where the couple, the man and the woman, each had their own trust. And so they wound up each paying half of the sale price. And that came across as two sales, but they weren't. So things like that. Or, and I might have discovered an estate sale as I further, because making these adjustments requires a lot of research, individual research. And as I discovered various sales that shouldn't be there, I took them out. So that would be the difference.
Okay. Madam Chairman, I have a couple of other questions. When I look at the neighborhoods,
Yeah.
the appellant's property is in neighborhood 60,
Correct.
and I noticed that the mean sales price baseline was 415,000 and change. The median was 427,000. So that means to me that we actually have fewer high-end properties, because otherwise it would be skewed, the mean would be higher than the median, correct?
You were asking me that?
Yes.
That's actually not a metric I use very often. I go by the ratio.
You go by the median, you take
Right.
the ratio using the median sales price, right?
Well, correct.
Yeah, and that has the effect. In other words, if you have a mean, the mean can be raised by a few
That's right.
high-value
Yes, that's right.
properties.
Yes,
So the
correct.
median in that case would be a more accurate measure of
That's
central
right.
distribution.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so one of the things that you point out in your narrative is it's a PRD?
PRD, price-related differential.
Right, and I noticed that for the neighborhood and for site index K, you don't present the PRDs that occur after your adjustment. So you have, that would be, in other words, the representing the accurate, or let's say, not accurate, but a consistent ratio between the lower priced properties and the higher priced properties.
That's right.
Correct?
That's right.
And, I mean, that's one of the appellant's arguments, that the data are all on higher priced properties. Well, for site index, you only had 4 properties that were for sale. Two of them were not in the subject neighborhood. 2 were in neighborhood 50, 2 were in neighborhood 60.
Mhm.
But you don't have a PRD.
Did it get cut off? Because I do have the PRD.
Where
Did
is
get
it?
cut off?
What is it?
You looking at the page with the 2 studies of 4 sales?
Right, so PRD is right at the bottom of each one of those.
Oh, never mind.
And it's
Yeah.
perfect.
And it's question answered.
Okay.
Small print.
Sorry.
Is that also the case with the neighborhood study?
Those were done by Envision 6.5, which doesn't allow me to choose what metrics are going to be given. I'm now using Vision 8, which does allow for that. But you can come up with the PRD by dividing the mean by the weighted mean. But no, it doesn't just give it outright.
mean, I think that would be a useful statistic, but if it's not, we don't have it, we don't have it.
Okay, any other questions from the board for the assessor?
No.
I would just like to clean up some paperwork here. What is your actual ratio for this tax year? The
For which matter?
4/1/27, no. what
No,
is it?
19.
2019.
For the town-wide?
Yeah, the
Certified
actual
ratio.
ratio and then the certified ratio, and I'm gonna want the quality rating.
Okay, well, the certified ratio is 100%.
Yeah, kinda figured that.
Yeah, the adjusted ratio is 95%.
Okay,
The COD is 703. And what was the rest of that?
quality rating.
703.
7.42.
Oh, okay, I'm like 700.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my.
I'm sorry, I forgot the decimal point.
Decimal points are important.
Yes, they are.
Yes. Okay, any questions from the appellant for the assessor?
Actually, to the commissioners, I would object to the testimony provided by the assessor with regard to a conversation that he had with a third party. It's complete hearsay and should not be allowed.
May I be heard?
Whether or not we're all assessors on this board. We all know what's admissible, what is not.
Oh, okay.
In the findings of fact, we will handle that, don't worry
Okay.
about it.
Okay, 'cause I mean,
You don't need to testify about it.
If I could just briefly indicate.
Oh,
that-
go for it.
So the record says that all assessors make inquiries with third persons that become part of the basis of their opinions. It is, we don't go by the rules of evidence, we go upon which people can reasonably rely upon. And there's no way in much of the work of the assessor without talking to people. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does the appellant or the assessor or any person have any further testimony in this matter?
I do.
Thank you. The testimony phase of this hearing is now closed.
Larry?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, this was, just to circle back, we've seen the assessor, we are both saying the same thing, but coming to different conclusions, and this is with regard to the estate sale. What we're saying is there's no way to know, and he's saying, well, that's just the point, there's no way to know. So we feel it's arbitrary to simply disqualify it on the surface. Nobody knows on any sale at the outset. Everybody's motivations are different, everybody's circumstances are different. So as a class of sales, it may raise the level of maybe scrutiny, but certainly shouldn't be dismissed on the surface. And we feel that the property is represented fairly through the MLS. There's no indication to support the testimony that the assessor gave about it being a distress sale, and in fact, it was on the market for a reasonable time of over 2 months. Now, if it was a distress sale and undervalued, one would think, or one had observed, that it was put on the market at $374 against an assessment of $510, and it was a distress sale, that we would have seen people pounce on it, and you would have seen a quick sale, perhaps even over the asking price. But that's not what happened. It sat there and sat there. Then they reduced the price over time, and eventually it sold. So it just, the facts do not line up with a conclusion that it was a distress sale or should be disqualified.
Madam Chairman?
Jerry?
Never mind.
Jerry wishes to.
I just want to point out the obvious. It
Yes.
was after April 1st, 2019 anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Just a clarification, Madam Chair. I have probably 30 seconds of argument. I don't know if that's appropriate now or at some later point in terms of how I'm characterizing the presentation by the appellant. A closing
You
argument.
really feel you must.
I think, yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
All right.
It will only take 30 seconds, maybe less now that I'm speaking.
You've wasted 5 of them.
The reason it's almost impossible for a homeowner to succeed in one of these cases is because you need to have a professional appraisal presented. Mr. Libby is not an appraiser. A lot of the information he's provided to you we can't address because it's not in a report. It was not relied upon by a professional to come to a conclusion. So he's testified around the edges of what a professional would do without reaching the conclusion, but it is not reliable information, it's not competent evidence for this board. What a property listed for a portion of a sale, by the way, what a garage setback may have meant someplace else. Those things would have been incorporated into a professional opinion that we could have been able to address. So I'm just, from my perspective, much of the presentation from the Libby's is not competent evidence. Thank you.
5 seconds.
Go for it.
I've done 5 of these and been successful on every single appeal, and I've never hired an attorney or had an appraisal. It's not
And
necessary.
that is not relevant.
I'm relying on the
We've gotten
obvious.
into the irrelevant, so we are moving on. Does the appellant or the assessor have any further testimony in this matter? No, you don't. The testimony phase of this hearing is now closed. The board will now move to the deliberation phase of the hearing. There will be no more testimony taken in this issue, but you are welcome to stay and listen to the deliberation. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Would anybody like, let's see. Martin isn't here, so we need to start out with somebody moving the first 2 questions. The applicant does or does not have standing for this appeal by virtue of her ownership of the property.
Yeah, we voted on that already.
I know,
Okay.
but we need to
Yep.
get them into the record
Yep.
as part of the thing. And that was, yes, she did.
Yes.
Okay.
You need,
Timely filed,
Yes.
it was time to file.
was timely filed. Commitment date was April 1st, 2019.
The effective date of the assessment is April 1st.
I'm going on down the old sheet first. Town of Camden has or has not established the subject property and similar properties to it were assessed by the same land and building schedule of similar fashion.
Has.
As
Town certified ratio was
100%.
quality rating is 703.
Yeah, 7.03.
Town of Camden has met its burden of equity by demonstration of its ratio.
Mhm.
Written communication between the town of Camden and the applicant was or was not clear.
Was.
Evidence was submitted to substantiate the argument that the Camden Board of Assessors value,
The Camden assessor.
the Camden Assessors value was manifestly wrong. No, no quantifiable evidence. It's worded fine. Okay, the assessors.
So it just needs to say assessor.
All 3 approaches to value were not even considered and were not even brought up in the
not applicable.
discussion, not an issue. Okay. So the next one, the cost market and income methods. Not an issue. Knox County Board of Assessment review is specifically addressing the appeal of the assessed valuation, makes no conclusion as to the value of any other parcel in Camden.
That's right. Before you finish up that sheet, is there anything on that other sheet?
I think we need to go to the other
I
sheet.
believe so. Some of which we've already handled, but
Yep.
we want to include that the appellant's use of a non-sale of an underdeveloped lot to determine the value of a developed property is not relevant to the determination of the appropriate assessed value.
I would agree with that.
We're good?
And I-
We're back to the tax year again.
Right, so I like the way that these are both spelled out.
Okay.
Both, one stating that the tax year for the appeal is April 1, 2019, and sales after that date should not be considered in determining the assessed value. And then the next one speaks to the same timeline, tax year April 1, 2019, and sales before that date should be considered. So I like how that is spelled out.
Okay, we've got comparable market analysis done by Nancy Hughes is not relevant to the determination of the assessed value of the subject property as of April 1st, 2019, because it was done as of the wrong date and for the wrong purpose.
I would say that that is not relevant, doesn't even play into it, it was excluded.
It was voted to exclude it from testimony anyways.
Okay,
Yep.
so we're not going to exclude it in the findings of fact?
I think that I would.
We're not going to mark that we did exclude it?
We're gonna mark that we
We
excluded
did,
it.
yeah, we're gonna make sure that it reads
Okay,
that
we
we
need
did
to,
exclude
where
it.
are we gonna mark that we excluded it?
Well, I think I would change the language just a little bit of that statement.
Be my guest.
Oh, come on, Jim.
Market, comparable market analysis done by Nancy Hughes is excluded.
Is excluded.
And then you could keep the last parentheses.
From.
So take out the,
Okay. Take out the not relevant to and put in excluded from. Okay, we're good? Appellant cites only one usable sale. That sale was already used in the assessor of Camden studies to determine new assessed values in this neighborhood. Is that relevant? I'm seeing the tops of a lot of heads here.
reading ahead, sorry.
What usable sale?
The appellant cites only one usable sale. The sale was already
Usable
used.
sale
in the-
is that.
Jim's looking.
You wanna skip that?
I don't think, in the end, I don't
Didn't
think
make a big
it's not
impression on
important.
you,
It's
obviously.
not important at the end, I wanna come to that too, though.
Okay. Skip this.
We'll skip it.
Request for inspection of the property by the assessor of Camden was denied. That was not testified to, but it was in the,
It was in
paperwork,
Carrie's letter response.
which is testimony.
They submitted it, so.
We have actually had people not show up here for a hearing, but submitted their testimony on paper as their testimony, so
Right.
that's testimony, folks.
I think it can be skipped over. I don't think it's important in the end.
Okay. Camden assessment ratio, we got that.
Yep.
Three places, I believe. Sales of properties not in Camden cannot be used to determine the values of Camden properties. Well, that refers to the real estate broker's opinion, which is not considered. Appellant has not proven that the assessment of the subject property is different from that of other similar parcels.
It's not.
Appellant has or has not proven that the just value of the subject property is more than 10% different from the assessment of the subject for the subject fiscal year.
Not proven.
Appellant has or has not proven the judgment of the assessor was irrational or so unreasonable in light of circumstances that the property is substantially overvalued and an injustice results, citing Newsom.
Not.
The appellant has or has not proven the denial of the abatement request is manifestly wrong. Therefore, final decision.
Before we get to that point,
Yes, sir.
Do we have to
Well, I
vote on our
guess-
findings of facts and things first?
Well,
As a-
These are the findings of fact.
along with the common question worksheet. The two sales cited by the applicant are post April 1st, 2019. There's significant case law that supports that those sales be excluded. Specifically, I'll bring up Mainstay Housing Association versus Town of Caribou, where they were bought a property early June of a particular year, requested exemption status, but as they did not own it April 1st, it was excluded. More recently, in Somerset County Superior Court, Town of Madison versus Madison Paper Mill that's there. April 1st is also very prominent in that decision. The sales, if they were April 2nd, maybe an assessor might look at them, but they are significantly past an April 1st deadline and need to be excluded on that basis. On a minor technicality, Mr. Libby's not the owner of the property, although Mrs. Libby is here. He's not the owner of the property and should not be testifying as to the value of the property.
Excuse me, just got it right.
I don't know if you want to include that as findings of fact.
Probably not. Board, interested in excluding that? Or including it?
I'm not sure what's the question.
It's a little-
The two sales that occurred after April 1st, I believe should be marked as being excluded as post-April 1st sales.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely, definitely.
As to the testimony of Mr. Libby for Mrs. Libby, I don't think that's anything we should do. We need to do the findings of fact. I think that's a minor point.
It's a done deal.
Yeah.
Okay, there was something else I wanted to put in there, and I can't remember now what it was, because you... Anybody have any other thoughts?
Well, for me, I thought we would have a bit of discussion about this, because we're not looking at just an up or down on the price. As we see on the second page of the assessor's testimony, there are a number of factors that went into this assessment. And it includes single-family homes. We've seen the data for all of that. And the important part of an assessment is the consistency and the equitableness across similar properties, right? And so we see single-family homes based on the sales for all of Camden. We see the style, the ranch homes, so all ranch homes are included in that, and the subject property is a ranch home. Construction grades, so if you have a more, let's say, a custom property that is a higher construction grade or a lower construction grade, that is also taken into account. So all of these factors, riverfront, neighborhood, and as we saw from the table, the median for neighborhood 60, the median sale price for that neighborhood, let me see where my thing is, was 415K. So, or the median, actually, the median, yes, 415K. So that means you have half of the sales below that and half above. And if we have a good assessment ratio figured on that, that's another point in the favor. That's a consistency that has to be maintained, that the assessor is responsible for. So we can't just take one sale and modify. What's important is all of the homes that fall into these under these various factors. I would say the evidence is clear that was done based on all of the historical sales.
Okay, can we put that in like a finding?
Well, it probably fits in one of the things here.
It is a very complete analysis of the cost approach.
Would you like to include that in there?
What do you think, Tom? 12 words or less.
I'm wrong.
Hey,
Which sheet are we looking at?
Note-taking, common questions worksheet.
Front page bottom.
Yeah. Actually, it's market approach. But it is, maybe it's just a comment that what Tom was talking about is a very thorough analysis of the sales that occurred in that neighborhood.
And maybe the statement just reads that.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
thorough analysis was done
Yeah.
townwide. A thorough analysis was done townwide.
Yeah.
I would say the number 4 is what I was talking about. The town of Camden has established that the subject property and similar properties were assessed by the same land and building schedule in similar fashion.
Yeah.
Say that again? I'm sorry.
It's already
It's
on the
already
sheet.
a number.
I know, I got too many pieces of paper, folks.
Oh.
Note-taking, common questions worksheet.
And it's-
Yeah,
Number 1, 2, 3, 4th one down.
Town of Camden has established that the subject property and similar properties to it were assessed in the same land and building schedule of similar fashion.
Yep,
Okay, I already had that checked off.
yep.
We all agree?
Yes.
Okay. So does that take the place of a thorough analysis of sales was done townwide?
No.
No.
I don't think so, do you? I think we
We
can
can
do
add.
that.
Okay,
Just leave it.
the more the merrier.
Sure.
Just a little more for Wendy to have to type.
She's good.
Okay. Anything else? We've got a lot.
That's a lot covered.
There was a lot of information
There was.
in this, yes.
Our applicant is very thorough.
Okay. So, would anybody want to move the passage of the findings of facts?
So moved
Accept
as-
the findings of facts?
So moved as read by our chair.
Second.
Aren't you cute? Anybody interested in seconding them?
I did.
Oh, I'll
I
second
did.
it.
All in favor? 5 yes. 0 opposed. Okay, therefore, the final decision based on the findings of facts is for the town. The hearing is adjourned. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hold it. Hour and 13 minutes. You're getting good at it.
I still think we're gonna take 15 minutes in the first place.
Hmm?
I always think they're gonna take 15 minutes in the first place.
I know. Oh, no, I've gotten past that.
Thank you for your time.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, have a good day.
Okay, we'll see. Wendy, and the one, a fistful of makeup.
Yeah, we're still paving too, so.
We've adjourned.
Yeah. Right, she said she would come shut it off, so I don't wanna mess with her stuff. Yeah, pretty running.
The one I have in the vehicle's got Split Rock Distillery.
Oh, me too.
I was like, hope I don't get stopped.
I have Split Rock too, but I put a little essential oil in it, so
Oh.
it doesn't smell like, bourbon.
Bourbon.
I mean, not
Doesn't
that bourbon's a
smell
bad
like
thing. Goodness.
As time has gone on, we've gotten more masked and more samples.
I'm sorry, we have to do this again next month.
Okay.
We're still.
We
paving.
haven't set it up though, have we?
I don't think.
Think so.
I don't
No,
think
we
we've
don't have
gotten
a date.
anything from Wendy.
Here, let me. get
Knock
her-
on the door, please.
Oh, she's in.
There she is, she's sneaking in the other way.